Hey everyone, welcome to Charger Games. This is Raja and this is another Unity Android game development tutorial. So in this video, what you're going to do is we're going to learn about touch joystick input controls. So you can see in a lot of games, you can take input from touch joysticks that you can see in the mobile device. So that's what we're going to learn. So in this video, first of all, we're going to import the assets and we're going to learn how to use them. And we're going to learn different features of the touch joystick, and then we're going to build two simple mini games to understand the stuff. First of all, what you're going to do is we're going to import this 3D model and we're going to control it using this touch joystick, and we can control it using my mobile, or we can just move this joystick here and we can control it. Okay, and I can also control it from my mobile device. And once we have done that, next what you're going to do is we're going to create a simple sphere, and we will write a script which will control and using that script we can control the whole sphere just by moving this joystick. So in the first case we used a third-person controller which is from Unity standard assets, so we didn't write any controls for that, but for the ball we're gonna write everything from scratch. Okay, so you're gonna learn everything. So hope you guys are excited. So we're gonna learn them, so let's get started. So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and create a new project here. Let's see, and make sure to create a 3D project, and I'm gonna name it Joystick Tutorial, and create project, and let's open it. Let's wait for it to open. Now remember, this is a tutorial for Android game development, so you should already have your Unity environment set up for Android development. Like you should have the JDK, Android SDK, all that stuff set up. So if you haven't seen my previous videos and if you haven't set up your environment, just go and check out some of my previous videos and set up your Unity environment so that you can work for Android, and then come back to this video. Okay, otherwise you won't be able to do it. Okay, so here's our project. So let's go ahead and quickly save this scene. So I'm gonna go ahead and save scene. I'm gonna name it test scene, or whatever you can name it. So once we have done that, now what we need to do is we need to, first of all, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna import the touch joystick input controls. Okay, and these assets come automatically as Unity standard assets, as a part of Unity standard assets. So if you haven't installed the Unity standard assets, you can go to the asset store and install them. Okay, let me show that to you. So you need to go to the asset store. Let me bring it out. And here you need to search standard assets. And as you can see here, we have the very first link. You just need to go ahead and install that. In my case, it has been downloaded, so I can import that. If you haven't downloaded it, you need to download it and then you can import that. Okay, so let's close that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and then click on import package, and from here I'm going to select cross platform input. So this cross platform input is where our touch controls are. Okay, so just select that, and remember you need to install the Unity standard assets, otherwise you won't be able to use it. So let's select this cross platform input, and as you can see it is importing all that stuff. You can either import all that stuff or just import the necessary things that you need. Let's click on import. I think it will take a lot of time, but we can wait for that because we have a lot of time. Okay, so oh, it's so fast. So as you can see here, we have got it imported. Now what I can do is, if I go inside this standard assets and inside this cross platform input and then go to prefabs, you can see now we have all these different type of prefabs that comes automatically from Unity that you can use in the games. So from here, what you're going to do is we're going to use this mobile single stick control. Okay, we're going to use that. So all you need to do is you just need to drag and drop it in our hierarchy. Okay, So now as you can see, it has been dragged and dropped in our hierarchy, but the problem is we cannot see it either in the scene view or in the game view. Okay, so as you can see here, we have these touch controls, but these things are disabled and you can't enable them. Okay, so to enable them, what you need to do is, as I've told you before, that these things are for Android and mobile platforms, so you won't be able to use them for Windows or PC or Mac Linux standalone. And as you can see, currently our project is PC Mac Linux standalone, so we won't be able to use that. So to use that, what you do is we need to go to File, Build Settings, and from here, as you can see, our current platform is PC Mac and Linux standalone, so we need to select Android and click on Switch Platform. So what will happen is this will change our current platform to Android, and then we will be able to build everything for Android, and then you will see that magically all the touch controls appear on the screen. Okay, so let's wait for it. So it has been converted to Android. Now if I just go ahead and cross it, now as you can see, magically we can see these touch input controls on the screen. So here's on the left side we have a joystick, and on the right side we have a jump button, but in this case we're going to use the joystick only. We don't need a jump button, so let's go ahead and select the jump button and delete that. And it says you will break the prefab. No problem, we can do that. Okay, so here's our mobile joystick. So now if I go ahead and run the scene, you will see that I can move the joystick and rotate it within a certain range. Okay, and I can do it in my mobile device as well. Currently I'm doing it in my PC, but I can do the same stuff in my mobile device as well. So next thing we're going to do is we're gonna now import a 3D character from the Unity standard assets, and we're gonna learn how to control that character using this joystick. So let's go ahead and again right click here and click on import package, and this time I'm going to select characters. Okay, and then again I'm going to click on import, and obviously it will take some time. Now if you want to directly test it in your mobile device while building it, you can install Unity Remote and set up Unity so that it recognizes Unity Remote, and then you can test it directly on your mobile device. In my case also, I have my mobile device set up right here, so I have also Unity Remote open here, so I can see whatever is going on. So I can control whatever there is through my mobile device as well. Okay, so it's taking a lot of time. I think I need to cut this part. Okay, so it's hanged. So actually it is taking a lot of time because since we are in a mobile platform, so it is converting all the textures and assets to something that's compatible for mobile or that's optimized for mobile. So that is why it is taking too much time. Okay, so all of our stuff has been imported and it took a lot of time, so I had to cut this part. So now if you go to these standard assets, you can see now we have this new folder named characters. So inside this characters folder is where we have all that stuff. So just go ahead and click on the characters, and from there we're gonna select the third person, and inside third person you will see this prefabs folder. Just go inside it, and as you can see here we have this third person controller. So what you're gonna do is we're gonna drag and drop our third person controller into the scene, and as you can see here we have a third person controller. If it is not in 000, you can just go ahead and click reset and it will be on 000. So now we're gonna import a plane as well where it can stand. So we're gonna go ahead and click on create 3D object plane. Okay, so on this plane our character will stand. So as you can see, if I just double click on this plane, you can see the plane right here, and where's our character, by the way? Okay, so our character is here and our plane is here. So our plane is in a random position. So what you're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and reset its position. Okay, click the gear icon and click on reset. So now as you can see, it has been positioned perfectly. Okay, I'm gonna select the plane and I'm gonna also change its X and Z scale to 10 by 10. Okay, so now we can see we have pretty big plane and we can just move wherever we want. So if I run the game, and now if I just move the joystick controller, you can see that I can move my character by using the joystick controller. So it's as simple as that. So this is what happens here. Our third-person controller has a character controller script which uses cross-platform input as its input for moving. So when we are in Windows, Mac and Linux platform, we can use our keyboard input to move it, and at the same time when we are in mobile platform, we can automatically convert it to joystick input or other touch inputs. Okay, so since it uses cross-platform input and our joystick is a part of that cross-platform input, so by default it automatically takes input from our joystick. Okay, so now a few more things I'm gonna change here is, as you can see, when I run it, we can move a joystick on a big amount of area. Okay, we can move it throughout a big amount of area. So I'm gonna make it small so that we can rotate it only within this range, and that's gonna be a more realistic stuff. So to do that, just click on this mobile joystick. Inside this mobile stick controller, click on this mobile joystick, and as you can see here, we have this movement range set to 100. That means it can move up to 100 within 100 radius or something. So if we just make it about 30, let's say, and run it, now we can see that we cannot move it far away. We can move it within a small range. Okay, I think 50 would be better. Let's see. Okay, I think 40. I'm gonna leave it at 40. Okay, so you can just change it and leave it on wherever you want. I think I'm gonna leave it at 40. So one more thing here is that inside this joystick controls, you will see that here we have this axis to use set to both. That means it will use both of our axes, horizontal axis and vertical axis. That means when we are moving our joystick on the up direction, it is taking input in the vertical axis, and when we are moving our joystick in the left and right direction, it is taking our horizontal input. It is taking input in the horizontal axis. So if you have seen some of my input tutorials, and if you have seen the input.get axis tutorial, you know that using the input.get axis, we can take input from the horizontal and the vertical axis. So here it is doing the same thing. Here it is just taking the input from the horizontal and vertical axis, and in this case the horizontal and vertical axis are the left and right and up and down movement of the joystick. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So from here, if I just go ahead and click on only horizontal, and now if I run it, now you will see that I cannot move it on vertical direction. I can move it only in horizontal direction, so left and right. So if you're building a 2.5D game or a 2D game where you want to use the joystick and only for moving left and right, and for jump you want to create another button, so there you can just log the input and use it for left and right movement only. Okay, so it's very useful. Okay, so with that being done, I think this is it for this stuff. So as you can see here, we have this third-person character controller, which is pre-made by Unity and it is part of Unity standard assets. So now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna create a new game object, a ball, and we're gonna use our own input controls to move it, and we're gonna use our joystick and we're gonna connect that to our own input controls and move our ball by using that. Okay, so we're gonna do that now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just disable this third-person controller. Then I'm gonna create 3D object and I'm gonna create a sphere. So as you can see here, we have our sphere, and the sphere comes automatically with a sphere collider, so you don't need to do anything. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click, create a new C# script, and I'm gonna name it ball controller, and I'm just gonna drag and drop it on our sphere. So now our sphere has this ball controller component. Okay, so now if I run it, as you can see, nothing happens because the sphere doesn't have any rigid body component or anything attached to it. So by default, it just stays in the same place. But we want it to be interactable with other objects. So we want to use the physics engine, Unity's physics engine, and we want to use that to move the ball. So to do that, we're gonna go ahead and click on Add Component, Physics, and we're gonna add a rigid body to the ball. Okay. So when the rigid body is attached to the ball, using the rigid body, we can add force to the ball and move it in certain direction that we want. Okay. And since the use gravity property is checked, so whenever we will run, due to gravity, the ball will fall down, as you can see now. So now it's time to move the ball using our inputs. So as you can see here, I have this ball controller script. I'm just gonna double click to open it in MonoDevelop. And as always, it would take hundreds of years of time. Oh my god, this never happened. This is the first time, believe me. Okay, so here we have our ball controller. I'm gonna zoom it in so that you guys can see it. So the very first thing we should do is we need to get access to the rigid body that is attached to the ball. So we're gonna create a rigid body RB. And inside this RB, let us create a void awake function. So inside this awake function, we're gonna get access to the rigid body that is attached to our ball. So you're gonna say RB equals get component rigid body. So now inside this RB, we have access to the rigid body component that is attached to the ball game object. So now by using this RB, we can add force to the ball or do whatever we want with the ball. Now, one more thing here is that, again, I'm going to say, if you have seen the input.getAxis tutorials in Unity scripting tutorial, Unity C# scripting tutorial, you will know that we can take input from the vertical and horizontal axis by using input.getAxis function. So here, what I'm going to do is we're going to do the same stuff, but instead of input.getAxis, we're going to do it with cross-platform input.getAxis. Okay. So cross-platform input can take input from our keyboard and our joystick and all type of inputs. Okay. And it converts it automatically to different platforms. So to use cross-platform inputs, here we need to use the namespace inside which it is there. So you're gonna say using Unity standard assets dot cross-platform input. So now we can use this cross-platform input. So and we're gonna do it inside fixed update function. So whenever you're gonna do something which has to do with physics, you're gonna do it inside the fixed update function. So here we have our ball and we're gonna move it using a rigid body. So that is why we're gonna use our fixed update function and do everything inside it. So what you're gonna do here is we're gonna get our horizontal value or horizontal movement value of our joystick and we're gonna store it inside a horizontal variable, and we're gonna get the vertical movement value of a joystick, and we're gonna save it inside a vertical variable, and then we're gonna move our ball accordingly, according to the horizontal and vertical input that we give to our joystick. Okay, so here we're gonna say float h input, that means the horizontal input, and here we're gonna say cross platform input manager dot get axis horizontal, and make sure to write it correctly, because if there's some mistake then it won't run correctly. And then again we're gonna say float v input equals cross platform input manager dot get axis vertical. So this way we are getting the input from the horizontal axis as well as the vertical axis. Now one more thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply it with the speed. So why that's important? Because if we use a speed, then we can change the speed, and accordingly we can change how much we want the ball to move according to our input. In this case, as you can see, in this case we don't have any control of how much we can move the ball. We just know that we can move the ball that much by using up and down and left and right movements, but we don't have any control with how much speed we want to move the ball to. So to give it a speed and give it more control, we're going to create a public float speed variable, and we're going to multiply our h input with speed and our v input with speed as well. Okay, so now we have both the horizontal and vertical inputs. Now only thing we need to do is we need to add a force to the ball according to these inputs. So to do that, we're going to say RB, which is the rigid body of the ball, dot add force. And as you can see here, we have three functions of add force, and we're going to use this function where we can add a certain amount of force to the x, y, and z three directions. So if you select the ball, if you select the sphere, what happened? Okay, so if you select the sphere, you can see that this red handle is the x-axis and the z handle is the z-axis. The blue handle is the z-axis. Okay, so we can move our ball in the x and z-axis. We don't want our ball to move in the y direction. We don't want our ball to move in the up direction. So we want to move only in the x and z direction. So that is why we're gonna add our force to only in the x and z direction. We don't want to give any force to the y direction because it is an upward. If you want to use any kind of jump mechanics, then you can definitely use the y axis, but we're not gonna do that here. So we're gonna add force. First of all, we're gonna add force to the x input, and we're gonna say h input, and in the y we don't want to give any force, so 0, and to the z we're gonna give the v input. Okay, so this way we will add some force to the x and z direction of the ball, and we can control how much speed we can give it to it using this speed variable. Okay, so let's go back to Unity, and if you select the sphere here, you can see here we have a speed variable which we can change. So let us try to use a different speed to see how much we can move the ball. So first of all, let me try 10 and then run the game. So now we can see that, oops, I have actually disabled the vertical movement of the mobile joystick. So select the mobile joystick and change its axis to use to both, so that we can move it in the up and down both directions. So now if I run the game, now we will see that we can control our ball using the joystick, and we have created this control by ourselves from scratch. We haven't used any of Unity's inbuilt code. Okay, so as you can see, it's very easy. Okay, so if you want to change the speed, you can definitely do that. Let me give it a speed of 5 and see how that works. So now I have given a speed of 5, so the ball will move a little slowly, but it works perfect. And I'm gonna also change the movement of the mobile joystick a little bit. So I'm gonna change its movement range to, I guess, 20. Let's see. So we can now move it within a small area. Okay, I think 30 should be perfect. 30. And now if I run it, okay, perfect. So now it works perfectly and we can control it easily by using our mobile device. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate it a little bit and make the scene a little bit awesome. So to do that, I'm going to click on Assets, right click, and I'm going to import another package. And this time I'm going to say Environment. So inside this environment package, we have all these types of terrain assets, all the type of textures, all the type of trees and water and grass and all that stuff. But we're gonna only use some textures to make it look awesome. So we're gonna uncheck most of the stuff. We're gonna only use the textures. So let me find where the textures are. Okay, so here we go. Here we have these terrain assets. Actually, I have disable it. So here we have the terrain assets. I'm going to select the terrain assets and click on import, and all that stuff will be imported soon. It shouldn't take much time because we have actually unselected all the stuff. So now if you go to the assets, standard assets, environment, you will see now we have this terrain assets part. So if I click on that, inside that we have these surface textures. So we're going to use these surface textures to decorate our scene. So from that, you can use any texture you want. I'm going to first of all, I think select this grass texture. So I'm going to drag and drop this grass over our field here. And as you can see, it is completely looking dumb because it has been spread so much that it is looking like this. So we need to tile it so that it gets tiled in small pieces throughout the environment. Now what happens is the small texture has been spread over the whole plane, so that is why it is looking like this. So we need to select our plane, and if I just click here, and as you can see here we have our albedo, and inside this we have this texture. And you can also see here we have this styling option. So inside this styling option, we're gonna say, let's say 10 on X and 10 on Y. That means now it is 10. Now there are 10 and 10 tiles on X and Y direction. And let's make it 20. You can increase it to any value you want. Let's make it 40. I think 20 should be good enough. So let's leave it at 20. And one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the shader and change it from standard to mobile and diffuse. And now you will see it is glowing. Now we're going to do something similar to our sphere as well. So I'm going to, from here, I'm going to select this mud rocky texture and drag and drop it on our sphere. Okay. So now as you can see, our sphere looks pretty awesome. Okay, so now let's try out the scene. Okay, so it is looking really awesome. So what I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna change the camera angle a little bit so that it looks perfect. So select the main camera and rotate our scene using Alter or right clicking. And now as you can see here we have our main camera. I'm gonna put it upwards. By using this handle, I'm gonna put it upwards, and then I'm gonna change its X rotation to about, let's say 30. 30 is too much, so let's say 20. Okay, so now it is looking above the wall, and I think this should be okay. Okay, I think a view like this should be okay. And one more thing you can do is, here you can see this field of view. We can just increase it, we can just decrease it so that it looks only a certain part of the ball. And we can also move it upwards. I think this is perfect. So let us maximize on play and play test it. So now as you can see here, we have our ball and we can easily control it using our joystick, and it looks pretty amazing. So this is how you can create this joystick, and you can just use it on your PC or use it on your mobile. Both of them work the same. So you can use it to control anything, any character, any game object, any ball or anything. So you can see that how we can do that so simply with some little code and using Unity's cross-platform input manager. Okay, so I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot because I really enjoyed doing it. So if you learned a lot from this tutorial and you want to learn a lot more, you can definitely check out some of my online courses available. Here we will learn to build awesome games. So in this project you will learn to build 10 Android games and apps, and the games are like this: 3D games and 2D games, 3D runner game, 3D football game, fruit ninja game, and zigzag game, and all that stuff. You can also check out this course. You can build 7 2D and 3D games. You can learn how to integrate video ads in your game and earn money from your games. Also, you can learn how to implement online score and achievement systems and online leaderboards. And you can also learn how to create all your game artworks. So if you're interested to learn more by examples and by actually building actual games, you can definitely check out the courses. You can check out the courses from the link in the description below or from the link that currently going on the screen. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, just make sure to subscribe. And if you like this video, and tell me what you want to see more. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, learned something. So have a great day. Good night. Currently it's night here in India. So thanks for watching and see you later. Goodbye.